Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great holiday season. I know a lot of YouTube creators are making content about how to make 2022 your year or how to change your life in 2022. And I think these are all great things. So I thought I'd go ahead and make my own video about, the idea of change and 2022 and the idea of a new year and a new slate, all that good stuff. And if you want to go do your chores or listen to this while you're on a walk or driving, please feel free to do that. So a lot of people this time of the year are looking to change their lives or reset their lives in some way. And this is because we as a society have decided to arbitrarily define one revolution around the sun as a way of saying this is a new time to change or this is a perfect time to change. And I think the reality is there's never really a perfect time to change. So while the new year is rolling around, I really do believe that you could decide to change your life any day of the year. You don't have to wait for January 1st to make these changes. But then there's this idea of change and then people saying that you should just accept yourself for who you are and not change parts of yourself. And to an extent, I would agree with that. Like, of course, you want to accept yourself for who you are, but accepting yourself doesn't actually mean that you don't have to change yourself. Like, if I'm a morbidly obese person, I can accept that I'm a morbidly obese person and still want to make changes. And that's the first thing that I would want to clarify, is that accepting yourself doesn't mean that you don't have to change, but it doesn't mean you have to change either. After all, we all need something to look forward to if we want to continue living optimistically. Like, you could take on a really nihilistic way of looking at the world and being like, you know what, nothing really matters because we're all just meat suits floating on a rock. So that's why I think the desire to change and improve your life is a great thing, is because you think that things can get better, and I fully support that. But the problem with making the decision to change around New Year's is your New Year's resolutions. And we all know what happens to those. People have a lot of motivation and steam in the tank in January of any new year to pursue their goals relentlessly. And then what happens the rest of the year is that they kind of just give up. And there are a few reasons for this. One is that they probably didn't plan out how they were going to achieve their goal well enough. And two is that they didn't pace themselves. So I recommend that if there is a new pursuit or habit that you want to take on, you have to think of it with a long-term lens. You have to really reel yourself in, especially at the beginning, because I understand that you can be full of motivation and determination to hit whatever goals you want, but the reality is change isn't going to happen overnight. That's why I keep getting shin splints when it comes to running. Shin splints occur when you tack on too much mileage within a short period of time that your body literally cannot recover fast enough, and then you just continue to wear down your shins and all your muscles in your legs. Same thing can be said about a diet. If you live on McDonald's 7 days a week, which I highly don't recommend, cutting it off cold turkey is going to make you feel super deprived for a few weeks, and eventually you'll just relapse back to your old habits. So if you're looking to make lifelong changes, it obviously has to be with a long-term perspective. That's why I also won't promise you guys that 2022 is going to be your year. Like, I don't know if the fruits of your labor are going to show up in 2022, even if you are consistent and relentless and diligent with whatever you're doing that entire year. If you guys are interested in personal finance, you already understand the concept of compound interest, or if you've read Atomic Habits by James Clear, everything is about the small habits that add up over time. And just because you're consistent all in 2022 and you're doing a good job and you're staying on track, you might not see the results that you want. And in that scenario, I ask that you be patient with yourself. And I promise that even if you aren't at the place that you want to be a year from now, you'll still be a very different person than you were a year ago. Even being 1% better than you were yesterday leads you to be 37 times better than you were last year. Starting small not only applies to your finances or working out or eating healthier, but it applies to the different dimensions of health. So in a previous video, I talked about how there are 7 or 8 different dimensions of health. And yes, while you do want to improve all aspects of health, it may not be realistic to do all of it at once. That's why you want to just start with one. Maybe just start with your physical health and focus solely on your physical health. Because what you'll realize is that these dimensions of health are all related in some way. There's a reason why people with mental health problems are still recommended to get their 8 hours of sleep, to eat healthy foods, to exercise regularly. Because while doing those things may not actually solve your mental health issues, if you don't do those things, you may not be even giving yourself a fighting chance. And the thing is, there's so many butterfly effects as to what could happen if you were to just focus on one part of your life that you don't even need to worry about the rest. For example, let's say you decide to stop drinking alcohol. Now you're spending less time and money on it, consuming it, going to the grocery store to buy it. But then you also end up saving money from not buying that alcohol, which, improves your financial health in a way. And maybe instead of saving that money, you could use that money to invest into a gym membership. Then you go to a gym and you meet new people and you actually make great friends. So everything's really connected. And if you just focus on one dimension of health, the others will eventually follow. Now with starting small, I think having a plan that works for you comes in tandem with that. If you don't have a plan, you're basically planning to fail. So there are like a few guidelines on what I consider is a good plan. First is that it's simple because you don't want to get too complicated, especially when you're starting out. Like when you're a beginner, you don't know anything. So just follow the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Having a plan that is actionable is also very important because wanting to lose weight is not a plan, that's a goal. How are you going to lose weight? Are you going to go to the gym more often? Are you going to drink more water? Or what are some actionable steps that you can take? Now, I think flexibility is also a very important part of a plan because if your plan does not work out, obviously you want a plan B. So if you want to start a YouTube channel and you plan to post at least once a week, maybe there's a week where you're super busy and then don't have the time to really post a video. So is there a possibility that you can cut some slack on yourself and maybe not post? Or on a week where you have more time, you can actually make multiple videos and then space out your content properly. Flexibility is also great because you are most certainly going to fail a lot. Whenever you're starting a new venture or a new hobby or a new interest, there's always going to be problems that you will have to face. It almost feels like there's obstacle after obstacle, and no matter how much you push through, there's always going to be some sort of problems. The fact is, trying to improve yourself one way or the other is going to be difficult, but it's equally difficult to just stay in the same position for a long period of time and then regret not having done anything about whatever you were unhappy with in the first place. There are moments when you will relapse and you're definitely going to kick yourself for doing that, but it's all natural and part of the process, I would argue. We all slip up and we're going to have our cheat meals, literal or proverbial, and it's not really productive to just continue beating yourself down because you slipped up once or twice. Going into 2022, one of my goals is actually to be more lenient on myself when it comes to YouTube. Back in the beginning of 2021, I set out with the plan to actually post a YouTube video once a week. And, it's been going well so far, but there are definitely times when I wish I didn't have to post. And you aren't always going to feel like it. So motivation isn't always going to be there for you. But at the same time, if you feel like your mental health or emotional health is starting to crumble because of this pressure to continue posting, then it might be a good idea to step away from it. So in 2022, I actually want to give myself more intentional breaks so I can come back to YouTube feeling more refreshed and making content that I actually enjoy making rather than forcing myself and making content that I may not necessarily be proud of. My next tip is to celebrate your little wins because bigger milestones become more and more seldom to come by. And if you want to keep yourself motivated over the long period of time, you're going to have to notice the very tiny bits of progress that really got you to where you are. Don't wait until you hit 1,000 subscribers to be happy. Just be happy with 10. When I started YouTube, I was lucky to get 20 views in a video at one point, and now I get sad when I only get a couple hundred. So, success is really all relative, and you have to make sure that you are being first realistic, but also not too hard on yourself when things don't go well. consider it a success that you even had the courage to post one video and to continue posting, even though you've probably faced a lot of self-doubt going into it. My last tip is that you just want to have fun. I think sometimes we're caught up in our own minds or our own little rat race that we kind of forget the larger picture. At the end of the day, it's pretty incredible that we're all alive in the first place, and life itself is pretty precious. Not to sound like this cliche bastard, but we are all gonna die one day, and nothing really matters. So try to find some enjoyment or entertainment in whatever you are doing, even though, there may be times when it's difficult. When things are fun, you're naturally more inclined to do them anyway, so try not to take things too seriously. But those are my overall thoughts on changing your life around for 2022 and beyond. Like, change should be a lifelong process, and I don't think you should peak at 2022. I really think that your peak should be a few years from now at least. And you don't have to be in like peak physical form or peak mental form, but just know that you continue to strive to be better every day, not just for 2022. And with that being said, I wish you guys a very happy holiday season, or the rest of it, and a happy new year. And with that, take it easy.